Hello and welcome to Around the Scene, presented to you by Playing with Rockets. I'm one of your hosts, PWR Ryan, and joining me tonight is Daddy Perino. How you doing, man?
Oh, I am excellent as always, Ryan. How are you?
Doing well. It's been a pretty chill day for me, thankfully, this time around.
I know we talked about it a little bit earlier before we started, but I, for no reason this morning, got up super early. You know when you just, wake up and it's,
I know exactly what
way
you're
before
about.
your alarm's going off, and you're just sitting there like I should be asleep. I know I have, 3 more hours that I can just be in bed, asleep.
Sometimes, though, your body is just get up. And you just kind of are like, well, I guess this is the time I'm waking up.
Dude, the sun hadn't even come up yet. I was like, oh my god, it's still dark.
And
I was
after
very
the
confused.
time change.
Yeah, I know. It was bad. So I'm fairly tired, but you know, I have enough energy certainly to power through not only this podcast, but everything else going on today.
That's always good to hear.
Out here on the grind.
For those of you who follow me on Twitter, I made a post yesterday. I found out that my work's office got broken into, and so I had 3 iPads stolen out of my office, along with my tub of G Fuel.
They took the G Fuel?
They took my G Fuel, man. I was so sad. I was like, okay, you could have taken the computer, you could have taken so many other things. No, the iPad's in my G Fuel. Why? Why would you take that?
Were the iPads yours, or were they?
They were my
employers?
works, but it was just it sucked. But that's what's going on in my world. But guys, for those of you who didn't know, this is Around the Scene. We are here every single week to give you your fix on all things Rocket League. If you like this, be sure to give us a thumbs up, follow everything. I don't think I really need to say too much more. You know the drill at this point. If you haven't done it, you probably never will. Maybe we can change your mind one day. We'll see. But we're going to talk a little bit about some of the craziness that happened this weekend. Oh my gosh, I accidentally hit a button, changed everything. Yeah, there you are. You're back.
Okay, that's good.
But want to give a quick shout out to our Patreon sponsors for the month of November. I always forget to change the month thing for some reason. But those Patreon sponsors are Kelvin Winter, Father of Five, Jonesy, and Neo. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. And then also special shout out to Nexum Crash over on Reddit, who gave us the RLCS Emerald Pro Wheel code to give away. We finally have an idea of what we want to do with that. So we're thinking of doing a Pick'ems challenge with the promo relegation tournaments for North America and EU, or doing a Pick'ems challenge where we do the regional tournaments for North America, EU, OCE, and South America. Let us know in chat which one you think would be most interesting for us to try and offer, and we'll work our magic to try and make that happen. But we think that's probably the best way that we can come up with to have engagement with people while also honoring Nexum Crash and him providing this code to us. So we want to give him huge props for that. And then final bit of housekeeping for you guys. The takeoff tournament has already begun. We did our first qualifier this Monday. We have the next 3 qualifiers on November 11th, 18th, and the 25th. For those of you who don't know, the takeoff is a tournament that we are offering on December 6th through 8th. That tournament is a $1,000 plus tournament. Currently, the prize pool is at $1,120. So if you would like to try and qualify for that tournament, you need to participate in one of those 3 qualifiers that I just told you about. If you want more information, go to our Twitter and Discord and stuff, and that's where all the information is. You can do !Discord there in chat to go find all that. But enough of that. Are you ready to go into some news, my man?
Oh, I was born ready. We have a lot to talk about today. I am very, very excited.
I thought we had a lot last week. It got even more weird. But we have 4 items today for our Rocket League news segment, so we're gonna jump right on into it. The first bit of information: more information has been released on how the upcoming blueprint system will work. That was released by Psyonix yesterday or today. Yeah, it was yesterday. So real quick, I'm just gonna read a little bit of it. With blueprints coming next month, it's time to get into specifics on what's coming to your Rocket League inventories on the day of the update. As last month's introductory blog announced, blueprints are a new type of drop that show you exactly what item you can build. Check out the finer details of blueprints and trades below. And I was like trying to figure out like what specifically to read on it. It's not too long, but I don't know that I want to try and read all of it. If you haven't seen the update yet, basically, crates. I'm sure everybody knows at this point, but crates, they're going away. Crates are out. Blueprints are in. Basically, it's sort of like crates. You like unlock the blueprint so that you can build the item rather than like so that you know exactly what you're getting. You did the episode where we introduced this. So why don't you?
Yeah. So basically, we have the more details about the system, basically. And what they're saying is that, your crates that you have in your inventory now, they're going to just be converted 1-to-1 to blueprints from the same series. So they are still keeping, the same item series that they had in the crates. The difference, of course, is that you're going to have revealed and unrevealed blueprints, right?
Yeah.
You can reveal an unrevealed blueprint at no cost to show what in-game item it can build. Once revealed, you can choose to create the item from that blueprint for credits, and credits are sort of the replacement for keys. The biggest thing that we got that we didn't really know before, so Psyonix really came out and said what is going to be tradable and what is not going to be tradable.
Yeah.
And so I'll actually start with the things that are not tradable. So can't.
I would say we'll kind of skip out on like the weeds of it all and just kind of like discuss it more generally, just because it's such like I'm not a huge fan of this blog in terms of like for our podcast because it's so nitty gritty, But basically, like I want to know some of your thoughts on this new system because now basically you just know what you're getting. It's no longer the deal of like you're rolling to see what you're getting. Like what are your general thoughts on the system based on what we've seen here in the blog post and what we read before on it?
Yeah, I think obviously this is just a preemptive step to get ahead of legislation that we've seen coming for gambling. Again, this is something that we've covered with the initial announcement of this. This hasn't really changed that much regarding, what we know and what we think of the blueprints in general.
Yeah.
I would say that overall it's a good thing for the game. I think what's really interesting is how this sort of stuff is currently affecting the secondary market for items because, again, as it sits right now, you can't, through the game, purchase items that are locked behind crates.
Yeah, like if you want the white Zombas, you got to go find someone who's trying to get rid of them. Have you looked at Rocket League Garage and stuff, like what it's doing to pricing? Because I haven't looked at anything on it.
I haven't really seen too much variance. The one thing that I saw today, and this is sort of semi-unrelated, but that I saw that the price for Alpha Boost currently is hovering around $1,900 USD.
Really? Wasn't it closer to 4K at one point? Or is that the white hat I'm thinking of?
I think you're thinking of the white hat. Alpha Boost traditionally has been not that high, but it's gone up and down. But it's not. I don't think Alpha Boost is always a great indicator of what everything else is. I think items like White Zombas or the White Octane tend to be more indicators of where things are going. But it hasn't been that much different. What's interesting, again, because this is the other part. I'm thinking of this preemptively, and this is just me being selfish, perhaps, but there are methods of acquiring keys for less than the standard issue price.
I would know this because I've done it.
For people who are not that well versed in the trading scene, oftentimes the way that traders cash out of the game, quote unquote, by trading their items is that they end up selling the keys for real money, which is questionable, perhaps regarding TOS. It's
if you if you're done with the game and you kind of want to make some of your money back, at least you kind of can,
Where there is a will, there is a way. But what's interesting is because these keys are going to be converted into credits. So I wonder, A, what the conversion rate is, because it's not listed. And then B, can you severely undercut it still by buying keys now,
Yeah.
waiting for them to convert into credits, and then see what happens? Or will the market price sort of stay lagging behind? I don't know what the deal is with credits. I don't know how they're going to be
Yeah, like
priced
what
in game.
$1 worth of credits get you? Maybe it's like $1 gets you 100 or something. Who knows?
Who knows? Again, we don't have that level of detail yet. So
Yeah.
I think that element of it is interesting because I'm tempted to just buy like a bunch of keys
Just to kind of see what happens.
just to kind of
I may do that actually. Get like 20 keys just to like find out like what do I get for these 20 keys?
Yeah, and
I may do that. Because I already have a bunch of crates, so I'll find out what's gonna happen like on the crate side.
and that's the thing.
more.
There are so many people out there right now that have. I mean, I've seen people with literally thousands of crates in their
They're about
inventory,
to
right?
get a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, well, because you're going to be able to see now, like, what
Yeah.
if it's a black market decal, if it's a painted exotic, like you're going to be able to see that, and so
Yeah.
I think the whole thing is fascinating in a way, but it's hard to really predict what's exactly going to happen.
I think it's gonna at the end of the day have to be one of those things that like until it like actually rolls out, it's gonna be like, well, what does this do? What's that do? I think the system seems simple enough for the most part, but that one it's I don't know. I think it's just gonna be like a let's wait and see kind of thing,
Yeah, I'm excited for it, but it's nice to get a little bit more clarification on what exactly they're going to do.
No, I'm happy to finally get some clarification on a lot of that stuff. But we're going to move on to our next bit of news. And this bit of news is that James Bott is quitting Twitch to cast Rocket League full time. This from his Twit Longer. The next chapter. Quote, today is my last day at Twitch. These past 3 years have been an experience of a lifetime, and I've gotten to work with an amazing team of people who are blazing trails in the esports industry. Back in October 2016, I accepted a role at Twitch to help operate the RLCS. The idea was that I would continue to help operate the RLCS on behalf of Twitch for the foreseeable future. However, things did not go exactly as planned. After the immense success of the RLCS in seasons 1 through 4, Soundex took the operations fully in-house. Following that change, Twitch graciously let me apply my skills to other areas on the team. I'll never forget the opportunity that Justin Delario, Nick Allen, and Golden Boy afforded me at that time. Twitch is a dream company to work for, but my true calling has always been commentating. With the increase in workload on both the Twitch and Rocket League front, I was forced to make an incredibly difficult decision. Sadly, that means that my time at Twitch has come to an end. The silver lining is I can fully apply myself to being the best Rocket League commentator, community activist, tournament organizer, and content creator as possible. As one chapter of my life ends, another begins. I look forward to what the future holds, and I will look back at my time on the Twitch esports team with pride and appreciation. Thank you again to Robin Almond, Blake Toole, Justin Delario, Norm Magalia, for all these people, and our team over at Twitch. It was a hell of a ride, and I hope our paths cross again in the future. I can like read a couple names, but it's like when I'm reading like a list, I'm like, but the funny
makes it difficult.
Yeah, the funny thing is though, is to be totally honest, I had no idea he was still working for Twitch.
Yeah, well, the other thing
until I saw it, I was like, huh, I had no clue.
Yeah, the other thing when I just saw the title of this and I didn't immediately read it was I thought, oh god, we got more casting talent poached by another esport. That was honestly what I thought it was.
I didn't think he was like, I saw it and I was kind of like, nah, there's no way you're leaving. I was like, there's got to be something else to this. Like other people, it was like, because they like leave at a time when like it would make sense to leave. Like it still is the middle of the season, so I was kind of like, nah, he's not leaving. So I clicked on it more out of curiosity of like what he meant by the next chapter, and then I read it and I was like, okay, that makes sense.
I was concerned because we've had a history of having great talent on the RLCS desk just end up getting poached by
we have
other communities. So I was thinking that James was going to be the next one to go because he is really good. I love James Bott. I think the work that he does for RLCS is amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that this is now going to be his full-time thing.
Well, now he said he like mentioned content creation and stuff too, so I'm wondering. I don't think he's gonna try and bring back the Rush Hour podcast like what they were doing before. But I wouldn't be surprised if they try to put together another overtime-esque type show like they had before.
Yeah, it opens up the door certainly to more possibilities. As you said, I wasn't really fully keyed in on what exactly he did with Twitch. Like,
Yeah.
I know he said he's part of their esports team, but it's so vague. Like,
well, see, like, that's what confuses me, too, is because it's like Wavepunk does commentating for, like, Twitch Rivals and stuff.
Right.
And Axel Toss does commentating for Twitch Rivals. So, like, whenever they do Twitch tournaments for, like, PUBG and StarCraft and all these other games, like, they do commentary for those things. And it was like, I'd never seen James Bot in on any of that, so I guess maybe he was like running the tournament side too,
or production side.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what part of it he had a hand in, but it was one of those things like I had no clue he was still doing that.
Yeah, so I'm just really glad that he's not leaving Rocket League for the foreseeable future. This reads to me like someone who is fully committed to this esport, and I'm happy to have him along because I do think he is one of, if not the best.
You and everyone else can have a sigh of relief because he's not going anywhere. But you got anything else you want to add on this one before we take a deep dive into the real news?
Oh, I'm so ready, Ryan. I'm so ready,
guys.
I'm so ready to talk about this next stuff.
This is what you guys all came here for. We're going to do Week 5 recap for the RLCS North America and Europe. We're going to start over in North America. And boy, just what a doozy it has been. I'm not even going to try and keep it all on us. I'm going to switch us over to this screen so you guys at home can see exactly like what kind of happened, because whoo-wee, it was so much stuff. So these are the final standings for the regular season. I don't think it's quite what any of us expected, but we're going to start off going over the recap. So Rogue take down Cloud9 3-1.
And this was sort of the start of it, right? When this happened, it was just like, okay, buckle in.
I'm not going to lie. I saw this. I watched this matchup happen, and like, there aren't, like, I watch Rocket League a lot, but, like, there are a few times that, like, when I'm not commentating and I'm just watching that, like, I'll be jumping up and down. When it's Rogue or Energy playing, like, I'll be jumping up and down based on the results. So I saw Rogue take down Cloud9, and I was bouncing all over the place. I was like, oh my gosh, they did it! And it was hard to not, like, it was hard to contain myself because, like, I was at my job when I saw it happen. But I was happy to see Rogue bounce back in that win. So I was like, oh my god, whew, they managed to win that one at least. Good stuff.
Yeah, and I think this was really the statement game, or the statement series, I should say, for this week of RLCS, because here was a team that nobody believed in. Nobody thought they were going to win a thing, myself included. I was very much saying that Rogue was never going to pull this off, and they started it by beating Cloud9. Now, here's what I want to ask you, Ryan, because we're sitting here talking about this. Do we want to talk about it game by game and then go by the bigger picture, or can we just
let's just talk about it general in terms of the series, because we have so much more to talk about than just that.
Yeah, so
I will say, though, I kind of know what you're trying to hint at here, though. And, like, Cloud9, or not Cloud9, Rogue kept winning these games, like, in the last minute. They would all of a sudden, like, blaze past Cloud9 in points. Like, the game would be a stalemate, pretty much. Like, Cloud9 would get, like, up 1 or 2 really early on, and then it was, like, the last minute to 2 minutes that, like, Rogue would suddenly kick it up to 11 and get point after point.
Yeah, we've said it before, but this team is really so dependent on AJ playing well. I think AJ really showed up this week, and when AJ is nuts, he is nuts. The problem with him is that he doesn't consistently do it, but when he when he gets to that point, it's something else. And
But it wasn't just him though. Like he played a big role. Don't get me wrong, but like they all played just so much better. Just watching them, I felt like it was a better team. And like there was a really funny meme about them, and it was just like it's like the dog next to like the wolf looking thing, and it's like something nice, and it's so, like suddenly like way more intense. You know?
Oh
You
yeah,
about
yeah.
that meme?
I know what you're talking
And so
about.
it showed like the golden retriever. It says Rogue weeks 1 through 4, and then it shows like the wolf like snarling and stuff. It says Rogue week 5.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, that's basically how you'd summarize this. And obviously, a really poor result for Cloud9 too, because they're trying to stay out of the relegation zone, and this is the team that
Yeah,
this is simply the team
this
you
was a
can't lose.
must-win game for them.
You could not drop this series, because if you win this series, and I forget how many quadrillion playoff scenarios there were for this, but if you win this series, like your odds of staying up were significantly higher. I don't remember
if they had won this game and they had beaten G2, they would have been safe from relegation.
Yeah, and I think like at the time, because this was also the first series of the day, so it wasn't like nothing was really settled at that point. But yeah, they had to win, and they didn't.
No, they did.
Yeah,
it was unfortunate for them, big time.
We'll get more onto that later.
Real quick though, I just want to clarify. We had people like nitpicking at us last week on when we're talking about relegation. We're not saying that they've been relegated yet. When we say relegation, we're talking about going to the tournament where you have to try and stay in the RLCS. We're not talking about, oh, they've been relegated. I had someone who commented on our YouTube video last week saying like, no, to get relegated, you have to lose this, go to the tournament, then lose that. And it's like, okay, I know that. Like, I'm not an idiot. I understand how it all works. Like, relegation is just shorthand for saying all that.
Right. If you finish in the bottom 2, you're in the relegation zone. But rather than phrasing it that way,
I just wanted to clarify for anybody who misunderstands what we're saying. We're talking about you're in the relegation tournament when we say relegation. I just want to put that out there in case someone wants to try and correct me again, because I was like, I read that and I was like, well, yeah, we know that.
Yes, because technically, nobody has relegated out of anything yet.
Exactly.
So,
but
I get where everyone's coming from, but
we're gonna move on to the next result. Space Station Gaming versus G2. Space Station Gaming managed to take it 3-2 for the series. They almost got taken down. They won game 1, then lost games 2 and 3, then came back and won games 4 and 5. Game 5, they just demolished the crap out of G2, winning it 6-1. The whole series was really close up to that point, and then all of a sudden, game 5, it was like G2 like quit, and Space Station Gaming just rammed their way straight through that game. I think it was like before halftime, it was already like 5-0. It was stupid.
Yeah, if there was a symbolic moment for this season, I do think it probably, I'm saying relative to G2, a symbolic moment for them is probably, getting absolutely annihilated in a game 5 where traditionally they have been so strong. The famous don't take G2 to, game 5 or game 7.
Game 5. That rule is long gone. That rule went out the window a long time ago.
Yeah, it's just there's not too much to say.
It was just bad. Like G2 just, and like the thing is like it was a close series, and then it was just like suddenly they just flopped, and it's just kind of like, man, like where were you guys? Like this is such a this is the final week. Like why are you gonna suddenly flop here? And like that's not to say that Space Station Gaming didn't pop off, because believe me, they did. They were killing it in that game, but it also just felt like G2 just didn't. It was like they were there the entire series and they like packed their bags and headed home game 5 before it started.
Yeah, it's really odd. something I was thinking about, before we did the show tonight, I was trying to like sit here and think like how am I gonna explain results, that go this way, and I just can't. Like the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, within the context of the season, like I can't really give a good reason like why G2 didn't, pull this out, or why things have gone the way they have. Like
Yeah.
at this point, like I don't know what really you can say. Like it's just simply the results aren't there.
Yeah, the results mean everything, and they didn't have any. I don't think we can sum it up any better than that. But we're gonna move on to the next game. Another just ridiculous result. That's like all this weekend was just ridiculous result after ridiculous result. So this game was Energy versus Rogue. Rogue managed to do the unthinkable and win the series 3-1. I'm not gonna lie, I saw them beat Cloud9 and I was like, cool, there's still a chance. And then I like looked at the schedule again, I was like, ah, man, they play Energy, like they're done, there's no way. And then like I saw them win, and like I was watching them play, and when I saw when I saw them win, I couldn't even believe it. I was like, holy crap, like everybody just got demolished by Energy this season, and then Rogue somehow pulled it off again. Like that meme couldn't be more true about them.
Yeah, I think this might be an example of a team that has everything to play for versus a team that had nothing to play for.
Yeah, they already punched their ticket. They were going to Worlds regardless. Like this week, literally, like they could have slept in and it wouldn't have mattered.
For NRG, yes.
Yeah.
But for Rogue, it's the complete opposite. They needed every single game. We're talking
just
about
to stay in the
individual games.
RLCS.
Just to stay in. So, I just think this is a classic example of a team that has everything to play for versus a team that doesn't. I'm not going to excuse that as to why NRG didn't play well. This is a team that NRG should crush 99 times out of 100.
Yeah.
But
it was also just I can
understand.
But the other part of it too, though, is like like I was saying before in their match against Cloud9, it was like this was a good week for Rogue. Like this is where they showed everybody again that 4th place RLCS season 7. Like they showed us that team again, and it was like, okay, like this team still is here. It's just they're not consistent, and like that is my biggest gripe with Rogue, is just how inconsistent they are. But like they just came in so clutch in these 2 games. Like it's ridiculous how they won this. Didn't expect them to. It was a close series for sure. Like the first game went Rogue 4-3. Second game went Energy 1-0. Third game went Rogue 3-1. And the final game went Rogue 1-0. So it's not like it was a blowout by any means. Like Rogue didn't kill Energy by any means, but they still won, and I couldn't be happier about that.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about this too was that so not only did Rogue have to win their 2 series just to again avoid that 7th or 8th finish, but then they also needed a bunch of stuff to go their way too. And as we go through it, we'll talk about what happened just to keep that train rolling for them.
Yeah. But we're going to move on to the next result. That was Cloud9 versus G2. This was a must-win game for both teams. Unfortunately, it went in favor of Cloud9, or at least unfortunately for G2. Cloud9 managed to win that series 3-2. And, yep, these 2 teams have just had such an unlikely season. Like, I don't think... If anybody had told me at the start of this season, hey, these 2 teams are going to be at the bottom of the standings by the end of league play, I would have been like, you're lying.
Yeah. And the series was about as sad, I think, is the word.
It was such a depressing series to watch, man. Like
it felt like
it was like the death march for these teams.
Outside of the last game, because I actually genuinely thought that Cloud9 played legitimately very well in the last game.
Yeah.
But like outside of that, from both teams, like it wasn't convincing in any of the four games prior. Like
no,
it just neither team showed us what they have been in the past. It just it looked like a series between two teams who were struggling to stay above the relegation zone in RLCS. That's what it looked like, because that's what it was.
Well, and it was such a hard series to watch too. Like if you've watched RLCS for a long time, like you watched this game knowing one of these two teams, whoever loses this game, is going to the relegation tournament. There's no two ways about it. They're going to the relegation tournament. One of these two teams is doing it if they lose here. That loss went to G2, so G2 ended up with just a terrible record that put them down there. And then it gave Cloud9 a line of hope, but that was all it did. It didn't guarantee that they were staying.
Correct. They still needed results to swing their way, even with a victory, because they had dropped the series prior against Rogue.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to the next bit of results. That was Space Station Gaming versus Pittsburgh Knights. Another just unlikely result. I don't think a lot of us saw it going this way, but Pittsburgh Knights received their first sweep against them. Space Station Gaming took them down 3-0 to clinch their spot for Worlds. So they don't have to worry about the regional tournament or anything. Like, they are going to Worlds, man.
And it was so convincing, too.
Yeah, I didn't have any questions at the end of that game. I was like, Space Station Gaming looked like the way better team.
Yeah, normally when teams play the Pittsburgh Knights, we tend to see them struggle offensively. That was decidedly not the case for Space Station. What they have? They had 3 goals in the first 2 games, 4 goals in the game number 3.
Yeah.
They just they turned it up to another level this week. You have to give Space Station a lot of credit, because they found like that second gear, or pick your metaphor, I guess, of being able to take it up to the next level. and they just illustrated why they're a good team, and frankly why they changed they did. A lot of people didn't like the roster change, when they dropped Sathu. A lot of people said this is dumb, this is your first season RLCS. Well, I think this is, a nod to everyone else. They made that move. They brought in Arsenal, and they said, okay, well, now we finished second in league play.
I mean,
and we improved.
If anything makes you feel more confident with the move and kind of helps you tell people off, that's clinching a spot to Worlds is a good way to do it. And I was one of those people who was like, I think this is a bad move. I don't think that's the right way to go. They showed us that was the way to do it, though, and they made it handily, I might add. So congratulations to Space Station Gaming. They proved me wrong.
They proved a lot of people wrong.
I like when teams can prove me wrong. I really do. I like when I have kind of underdog story happen, Because at the end of the day, I would like for everybody to succeed, but unfortunately, it can't be like that. So that's gonna lead us to our. Did you have something else you wanted to add? I heard you sound like you wanted to say something.
No, other than the fact that it makes it much more interesting for the Pittsburgh Knights. I think this is an opportunity for the Knights to really cement themselves as that top-level team. But because of this result, now it's a little thrown into question, because I don't think, based on where they were last week, I don't think this is the finish that the Knights wanted. So I think they are fairly bitter about that result.
Well, it's also kind of sucky for them, because it was everybody was looking at them as oh yeah, this is a really good team. They took down Cloud9 and G2, and it was then we saw all these other teams beat Cloud9 and G2, and it was that kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah, turns out they're not that good.
That's kind of not that impressive actually this season. But we're gonna move on to the final result. That was Ghost versus Birds in the Bees. And this went in favor of Birds 3-1 over Ghost. And this match right here led to some discussion over on the Reddit and Twitter and everything But and I want to get your opinion on this too. But for those of you who don't understand what this match meant, this match right here, if Birds and the Bees had lost this game, then Cloud9 would have avoided the relegation tournament off of game differential. But since the Birds and the Bees won, Ghost was safe regardless, but since Birds and the Bees won, it put Cloud9 in the relegation tournament with G2. And a lot of people are looking at this and saying that they think that Ghost, because Ghost knew they were safe. Ghost knew that this really didn't change anything for them. They knew that they were going to be in the upper part of the regional bracket. They had lost their chance at top 2. And a lot of people are saying that they think that Ghost threw this game to keep Cloud9 out of that bracket for regionals.
Yeah, so let's also clarify something at first. Birds and the Bees actually didn't even need to win the series. They actually just needed 2 games. So,
yeah, they did need. Oh, my bad.
So,
I thought they had
again,
to win.
It all sort of changed because based on the results of all the series prior to it, basically at the end of the day, what in the end did it come down to was they only needed 2 games. They actually didn't even need to win the series. They could have gone 3-2. You know, Ghost could have won it 3-2.
Oh, yes,
and that would have been enough.
I remember I was watching the 3rd game and they won, and I heard the casters say that. So no, that was my bad. That was a mistake on my part.
And yeah, so it's actually kind of funny that you bring that up because I had actually said something similar, not publicly, but I guess I'll say it now publicly, where I thought NRG might have actually done Rogue a professional favor by not going all the way. And I thought, like, I'm, you know, from NRG's perspective, right? Like I said, okay, well, they have top 2 locked up already.
Yeah.
You know, there's a relationship there with Kronovi, you know, and because, you know, these guys have been in the RLCS, you know, with Garrett. Yeah. I don't really know exactly what that's like, but, you know, NRG looks at it and says, well, if this happens, there's a chance that, you know, either Cloud9 or G2 don't, you know, stay up this season. And I thought, like, that was a bit of a stretch because I don't think NRG played poorly.
No, I think that the Energy versus Rogue one is a little bit more of a stretch. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I do. At the end of the day, like, I'm not sure that any of these teams would have actually done that. But a lot of people think that Ghost should have beaten out Birds and the Bees. Granted, we think a lot of things should have happened this season that didn't happen.
And that's exactly the point I was going to make, was that even if you think Ghost should have won in this game, which I do, I think Ghost should have won this game. But, you know, I can also understand the temptation, if you're a Ghost player, to sit there and say, okay, if we don't win this series, nothing changes for us. Right? I think at that point it was like either like they still had to play the Knights, right? Like even if they had lost, they still would have ended up playing the Knights. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it just would have changed who, like, so if they lose against Pittsburgh Knights in the regional bracket, then they just would have dropped down to face the winner of Rogue and Birds and the Bees or Cloud9, basically.
But it wouldn't have changed their first matchup, right? They were playing the Knights regardless.
Their first matchup was going to be Space Station Gaming or the Knights regardless.
Okay, so with that in mind, I can see where people get that idea watching the series. I don't know. It would be so
that a lot
difficult.
of people say is they're like, can we prove it even? And I'm like, you can't.
No.
Because there are plenty of times that we've seen teams just play really badly and, like, it's an important game and they just suck. And it's like, when can we ever tell if a team actually, like, threw a game or not? There's only, like, one time that we've been able to, like, really determine if a team kind of threw. And I don't think they actually threw. Just it was obviously didn't care. It was like that Splice dudes game or something
in RLRS,
our rival series back in RLCS season 5, I think.
Right.
6 or 4. There's one of the rival series was like Splice. If they had won a game, they would have kept another team in. But because they lost and like they were kind of throwing the game, it caused that team to get pushed out of rival series.
And that was actually talked about very heavily at the time too, because a lot of people were not happy about that.
Oh, a lot of people were mad because it was like it was very obvious that they didn't take the game seriously because they were playing like with the Scarab and all these other like joke cars that it was like none of them play with. So it's not like you could say like, oh, I'm actually good with this car. I've been practicing with this car. It was like, no, like you just don't care.
Yeah, and we did not see that out of Ghost here. So it would be difficult to prove anything like that. I just don't necessarily buy it. Again, I think it's a case of, okay, I think a team that has nothing to play for, right? Ghost, didn't matter either way to them, versus a team that has everything to play for in the Birds and the Bees. You know, the Birds needed 2 games. If they got the 2 games, they're good. So if Ghost doesn't care and the Birds play like their life depends on it, well then yeah, this is probably what's going to happen as the Birds take it down 3-1. So
yeah, and to be honest, I kind of think that's how it went for Rogue too. I think their first match against Cloud9, I think Cloud9 was trying, and Rogue just managed to pull the wool over their eyes on that one. I think the game against Synergy, though, I think that one was just about which team was more motivated for it.
Right, and I don't know. I'm not going to sit there and accuse a team of throwing unless it's like inherently obvious. Again, I watch all of these series. You know, I had the whole weekend to watch. Like, if I'd watched the games and thought that, I would say it, but I just don't. Like, I don't see that.
Yeah. But we're gonna keep an eye on it, and we'll let you guys know how that goes as it unfolds a bit more. But I don't think anything's really gonna change on it. You're not gonna be able to prove anything really. But so the final standings are Energy Esports and Space Station Gaming in first and second. They have officially punched their tickets. They are going to LAN. Then you have Pittsburgh Knights in third, Ghost Gaming fourth, Birds fifth, and Rogue in sixth. Cloud9 and G2, this is something I never thought I would say, are both officially in the relegation tournament. We will see them come up for that. Not this weekend, but next weekend. The reason being that it's going to be the following weekend is because the Rival Series completes itself this Friday, and we want to be able to give them a week to prep for that matchup.
Yeah, stunning. Really, it had to shake out in a very specific way for this particular situation to happen, and it did.
Yeah, for it to happen, like these like every single game had to go a specific way for these two teams to end up here, and like I even looked out the results well in advance, and I was like, I don't think that's gonna happen. I just can't see both of them ending up here, and then sure enough, everything just fell into place. But what?
I always thought that it was a strong possibility that we would end up seeing one, just purely because of where they stood prior to this week.
No, it was guaranteed that we were gonna see at least one of them, pretty much. It was gonna be really tough to not see at least one of them in relegation and put both Rogue and Birds there. It was like Cloud9 and G2 both had to win their first game, and Birds and the Bees had to lose, and then it didn't matter who won their match between each other.
Yeah, just I still don't even really know what to say, to be honest. I've been thinking about what I wanted to say for the past couple of days, and I it's so baffling because they don't look like these two teams, like they don't look like what we have expected for so long out of both of these rosters. Like, and it happened the entire season too. It wasn't like each team was playing well and then they had like a couple of...
It was like they just looked bad all season pretty much.
Yeah, and I just 2-5 for both of them. Obviously the big three is dead, clearly. That is...
God, I called it. I thought I was like being a little like too aggressive in saying that it could happen this season when I kept saying that before, which is why I kept like also saying or season 9. But sure enough, I was right. It could happen in season 8, and it did.
Yeah. Clearly that's the end of that. And now, of course, there is wild speculation about what is going to happen to these rosters. I think
we're going to have some juicy roster moves happening this time around. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah, if you thought the last season, or the last off season was...
Waiting for Energy's new third, waiting to see what happens to Cloud9 and G2 is going to be wild.
I think, of course, a lot of that will depend on what actually happens in the relegation tournament. So I don't really want to touch on that today.
I think we'll talk about that when we do the show next week, because the tournament will be coming up, so it'll be like more relevant at the time.
But yeah, stunning, really. That's just all I have to say about it, Ryan. It's just stunning.
It is definitely Rocket League history for a lot of us. But we're going to make our way over to Europe now, and we're going to start talking about some of those results. So, game number 1 was between Dignitas and TSM. That went in a total sweep for Dignitas, who took game 1 2-1, game 2 3-1, and game 4 4-1. It was like Dignitas charged up throughout the series.
Yeah, and charged up through the whole season, really. This was Dignitas throughout this season has sort of shown that they can do it. They've done it at times, but they looked really good. And TSM, they were just they were just a little out of sorts. I mean, it's sort of this pattern that we've seen where they just didn't play well, and then they relied on alpha, and then it wasn't enough. And against a team in Dignitas, I don't know, just it was weird watching these games, because again, I'm sure you all know, but of course North America and RLCS happens on Saturday, and we get EU on Sunday. After seeing what had happened in North America, I truly had zero expectation for EU. I was like, I have no idea what's gonna happen in these games, because after that absurd,
in ridiculous
season,
from week 1 was screwed. So it's I remember seeing memes just about how messed up EU was from the get-go, and it was North America, it was a little slower, and everybody kind of having that realization of oh no, this is really bad. But Dignitas, I'm with you. They definitely have stepped up over the season. They had a lot of really good results in their favor. And I mean, they took some solid wins this season, and some of the teams they were able to take the distance, like Veloce and stuff. So it's I'm happy with how they did, and I think that their pickup of Astral was as good as we could have hoped it would be.
Yeah, and just on the flip side for TSM, just how poor it was. Again, this was a team that really needed the results this week, and to get swept in your first one, that's how we say
on the final week.
A big yikes.
Yeah. Well, and this was a team that was in contention for going to LAN at the start of this weekend. If they had won both of their series, they could have still clinched the top 2 spots.
Right.
So that was a big loss for them, but we're gonna talk more about them here in a little bit, but we're gonna move on to the next game. That was FC Barcelona versus Complexity. That went in a 3-0 sweep in favor of FC Barcelona. Again, this one's not surprising. Complexity have just looked bad all season long. They keep having close series and stuff with certain teams. They had a close matchup against Mouse and Reciprocity, but it was just when push came to shove, this team could not close out series. And they were already done before this matchup even happened. Everybody, they already knew the result. They were done practically week 3. They were pretty much basically going to the relegation tournament. They had a 0-7 season. Their total record was 10 wins and 21 losses. That's one of the worst records ever. Yeah,
I feel for Flakes, because I feel like the talent is there with him, but I don't want to overly criticize, but
Yeah.
I feel like his teammates just aren't up to RLCS standard.
No.
Frankly, it's amazing.
I think
watching them
Grazy's
now.
been kind of falling off for a little while now, and so I was like, yeah, I don't. He's a good player, and I think that like he's gonna get with a better team in time, or they're gonna pick up a better teammate here around. That's really unfortunate for these guys.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much to say here. It's just a really sad season from Complexity, really.
Beating a dead horse on that one, pretty much. It's like that meme of, stop, but he's already dead.
Pretty much.
So we're going to move on to the next game. That was Dignitas versus Renault Vitality. That went in a 3-2 win for Dignitas. Dignitas, again, stepped up big, pulled off the win where they needed it, and they managed to take away Renault Vitality's chance of getting one of those top 2 spots for LAN.
So. Yeah, this was a wild one because this was back and forth the whole series. I really didn't know who was going to take this down. I thought we were going to see a bit more out of Vitality.
Vitality's been wonky this season, though.
Like, when they're good, they are so good. But then they sort of, like, hold... I don't want to see, like, they hold back, because that's not really the way to describe it. But they almost, like...
It's kind of like G2, where it's like they're on, they're off, they're on, they're off, you know?
Yeah, and out of the world champions, you expect a little bit more consistency than that.
Yeah.
A lot of that, I think, is inherently due to their playstyle. I think teams watched what some of the North American teams were actually able to do to Vitality, in that they just straight up got in their faces. Like, Vitality was able to operate for so long because teams respected the individual mechanics and ability of every player on that team. And so they ended up getting a lot of space. But I think what sort of got figured out was just go after them. Don't, I think this is the biggest meta shift throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
But just don't respect people's touches in their space. Just, if you can't get the ball, fine, get the player. If you can't,
Yeah, you can stop the play even if you can't get the ball,
Exactly.
And I think that's what a lot of players are starting to realize.
Yeah, and it's working in that it causes so much variance in results, because if you can effectively, knock players out of the game, like literally and figuratively, you just shake up the whole dynamic. And I think in this series, Dignitas didn't, they weren't quite as, demo and bump heavy as maybe other teams, but
yeah,
I think that there's a blueprint there that worked for them. They still just didn't respect the space. That's the big thing.
Yeah. But Dignitas, they managed to stave off relegation by taking these 2 victories, and they took a proper 5th place spot here in the standings. But we're going to move on to the next game. This one was a little bit of an upset based on the records that the teams had, but Mouse Sports lost against Veloce 3-1. And Veloce, this is a team that is so interesting in a lot of people's eyes, because they weren't supposed to even be here. Like, this team wasn't even supposed to be in the RLCS this season. Because of the whole mess that happened with Triple Trouble, a team that should still technically be in the rival series has now punched their ticket to go to LAN for Worlds. Like, it's just such an odd result that I just don't think anybody expected them to come in and kill it like they did.
Yeah, I just didn't think the talent level was there on this roster.
I didn't either.
Like you look at it, and they're coming up. Okay, it's Freaky, it's Flame, and it's Casio, right? And even then, I didn't even think they got the best player off of Triple Trouble.
See, I didn't think so either.
I thought of that group, I thought Ronicky was really going to be the one that people wanted, and he ended up going to Barcelona. So Clearly there was demand, but I didn't even think like Casio was really that, the impact player. But clearly there is something about this team, and what a redemption story for Freaky too. Can we talk about him for a second? Because this is a player who has gone from the very top to the very bottom, now back to the very top again. What a wild and amazing ride for him.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story to watch, and I'm happy for these guys. Like, huge props to them. Now sports were doing so good all season. I expected them to take this just because like they were just looking so fantastic throughout the whole season.
Yeah, it's interesting with Mouse because they have ridden so many close series and gotten the results that
bunch of nail biters.
It felt like at any time, a different bounce either way, was really the difference. And I just think this week they sort of didn't get those bounces that they have been getting leading up to this.
Yeah. But that is going to do it for that game. The next game was TSM versus Renault Vitality. That went 3-2 in favor of Renault Vitality. And with that loss for TSM, they got the pleasure of joining Team Solo Mid in the relegation tournament for Europe.
Yikes.
Yeah. I mean, there's no good way to put that. Just big yikes, because they were competing for top 2 spots, possibly. But little did they know they were also competing for relegation.
Yeah, and this is sort of the what's the word I'm looking for? I think actually this result of having, because we have a team that's 3-4 and facing relegation. Now I don't know this, but in my guesstimation, I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've ever seen a team have 3 wins and not be stuck in the sorry, I think I phrased it incorrectly. This is the first time a team has won 3 series, but still been caught in the relegation zone. I believe. I'm not 100% certain.
Well, it's because Europe was just so highly contested. Like, literally, 1 series victory could have changed the entire standings. Like, no joke. That's how close this whole thing was. Like, this game between Team Solo Mid and Renault Vitality, if Renault Vitality had lost this game against Team Solo Mid, they would have been down in relegation, 7th place. But since they won, they took 3rd place. Like, that one series could have determined a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 placement swing. Like, that is insane.
And I think this is a good, this is a really strong indicator, I think, as to why they're moving towards 10 teams for next season.
Yeah. Because it's getting so much more competitive that it's like, it's almost unfair. Like, if you're an org coming in, you pick up what you think is a good team, like, it's almost really unfair.
Yeah, and I feel like TSM, or if it had been Vitality, either or, would have been really hard done by. To go 3-4 and be facing relegation is harsh.
Oh yeah.
And part of that is because
it's not like you played bad. It's just everybody else played slightly better.
Fractionally at best, with the exception of Complexity. So if you think of it as, well, Complexity essentially made it a 7-team league, if that's the way you want to look at it.
No, I mean, that is the truth, though. At the end of the day, that's the truth. Is like this, Europe was basically a 7-team league. Complexity didn't even make themselves a part of it necessarily.
And when you have a situation like that, someone is going to get hard done by, and it happened to be TSM. I think they'll survive the relegation tournament. I think I say that I think. I don't know.
We'll see. I don't even know.
I don't even want to go into that because
I'm not even sure. The promotion relegation tournament is such a wild thing that it's like, I mean, you go into that one having no expectations of how it's going to turn out. And I think a lot of people are sitting here saying like, oh, G2 and Cloud9 are going to come out of it. And it's like, based on how this season's gone, I'm not saying a word on that. I'm not going to predict anything yet because
I think we'll wait.
It's just ridiculous.
Cover that aspect of it more in the next week or two, because as you said, nothing's been guaranteed this season.
But we're
and so I feel bad for TSM.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, it's the luck of the draw though, and that's kind of how it goes. The final series for Europe this weekend was Mouse Sports versus Reciprocity. That series went in favor of Reciprocity 3-0. That effectively gave Reciprocity that first place standing over Veloce. They punched their ticket to go to Worlds, and it dropped Mouse Sports down to that fourth place spot.
Yeah, and Mouse Sports nearly got shut out of the entire series. They only had one goal.
Picked up one goal in the final game.
And to be fair, it's not like Reciprocity had that many either. They they went 2-1-2 in terms of number of goals, but
they showed that they could score at least.
Right, and I think Reciprocity earned this. I think Reciprocity has been really good this season.
They've been awesome all season.
I think going into it, a lot of people liked them to make top 2, and they did so. With Mouse, it's interesting though, because again, they've been riding these series that have been so close, like all of these game 5s, and they've managed to swing them their way, and it just sort of fell apart this last week. Now, I don't think losing to the teams that ended up finishing 1 and 2 is a bad thing. Yeah. But you had an opportunity to cement yourself as one of those top teams, and they fell kind of flat in that regard.
Yeah. But guys, that is our wrap up for Europe. This is the final standings for you guys back home. First place went to Team Reciprocity. Second, Veloce Esports. Third, Renault Vitality. Fourth, Mouse Sports. Fifth, Dignitas. Sixth, FC Barcelona. Seventh, Team Solo Mid. And eighth, Complexity Gaming. Team Reciprocity and Veloce punched their tickets. They are going to Worlds. And Team Solo Mid and Complexity Gaming going on to that promotion relegation tournament. So that is going to wrap it up here. We don't have any roster news to talk about, really. Just all the wild stuff that's happened. Real quick correction. The promotion relegation tournament is not this Saturday or next Saturday. I was wrong on that. There's nothing happening with RLCS this weekend, but the following weekend is actually the regional tournaments, not the promotion relegation tournament. I just saw Wikipedia's schedule for when that happens, so that was my bad correction on that though. But you got anything else you want to add before we close this bad boy out?
Wow, what a season we've had. We sort of stayed away from a couple of these topics because there are still some results pending.
Yeah.
I feel like in the next couple of weeks, we're going to really have some juicy discussions, because this has just been an absolute roller coaster of a season. I can't believe it's done.
I can't either. It's just, it happens so fast, it feels like. But, I mean, here we are. That's it. That is a wrap. And Ty Swiggle was saying last week of our rival series is this weekend, but that's it. And so, we haven't talked about the rival series. We're going to talk about that next week, because then we'll have the final standings, and we know who's then going to compete in that regional tournament to get those all auto qualification movements. And then we also know who's going into that promotion relegation tournament. So we'll talk about that more next week once we have those standings more solidified. But that is going to do it for us here, guys. It has been our pleasure to have you with us. This has been Around the Scene, episode 29. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you like this, be sure to give us the follows and all that stuff again, or consider giving us a buck over at patreon.com/playingwithrockets. We're going to upload the VOD of all this over on YouTube tomorrow for you guys. Perino does such a good job getting that quickly done for us, so we're going to have that up for you guys later if you missed tonight's episode. Perino, I saw you were streaming today, so you officially have your Twitch again. You're doing stuff on it. So where can people follow you?
Well,
and watch your GC gameplay.
Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch. Well, if you really want to come check me out, you can hanging over at twitch.tv/Perino. You can follow me at Twitter at Perino TV. I'm a zombie streamer. I make a showcase of life once in a while. It's just scheduling with real life and doing this sort of stuff is hard. And
It is.
I think I'll have a bit more time coming up in the next couple of weeks. So if you enjoy listening to us here and you want more, that's where to find me.
Cool. You can also follow us at our Twitter handles right below our beautiful faces. And you can follow us over at PWR_leagues if you want to see more information on the takeoff and all that stuff. But guys, it has been our pleasure to serve you. It's been our pleasure to do this show with you guys. So next week is episode 30. My God. That's so weird to say.
That's going to be that's a content episode for number 30.
It's a weird thing to say that we've done this for 30 weeks now, but that's a wrap, guys. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care and enjoy the rest of your week.
Later.